Hey review family, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morse, the review guy reviewing music for the love of music, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one, I just want to rant a little bit about a certain band that I think has been getting so much popularity over the years, and I think a lot of people were curious about inclusions in my death metal tier list video, the iceberg video, and wondering just why I didn't talk more about this band, why I didn't put them on the list. And I want to sort of clear up something and let people know that I don't actively hate this band. This isn't me sending hate their way or saying that you should go out of your way to hate this band. This is just my personal opinion as someone that has followed brutal types of music, specifically deathcore, and am an admirer of slam and a lot of bands within that genre. I just want to come out and say, Vulvodynia has to be one of the most overrated slam bands that have ever existed, and in my opinion, just the traction that they have gotten over the years. This is sort of coming off the back of a new single that they dropped, The Shadowy Descent of Gaia, I believe it is called, and I've listened to this track about 2 or 3 times, and I've been hearing a lot of people talk about how they're taking it in a new direction, how they sound interesting, how this, in comparison to their past material, sounds less like cookie-cutter slam, and more so like technical deathcore, and sort of a more brutal take on technicality, as opposed to just simply slam metal. Now, they have always had a very high velocity sound to them. They've always played at insane speeds. They've always really had that slam aesthetic to them. And it's just samey to me. I think it's disappointing. I think it's underwhelming. And the fact that they're signed uniquely to records, I think is awesome. They definitely do fit that roster a lot. But in comparison to so many other bands that are at large right now, this style has increasingly become more and more popular, more and more in the mainstream of metal. And I think a lot of bands have sort of jumped on that bandwagon and started to do a lot of tracks, a lot of albums that just blend together, that have no sort of styling to themselves, and the brutalness of Vulvodynia cannot be discredited or looked past. They're right up there with sort of like an Acrania is what I would compare them to, which is another band that I think sort of gets a lot of hype and a lot of praise compared to what they actually are able to do. In this technical aesthetic that Vulvodynia is going for now, in my opinion, is not doing them any favors. I guess you could say this could be labeled as a track review, but I'm not even going to label it as that because it really isn't. I'm not going to get too much into this single, but I am going to link it in the description as well as in the comments section for you guys to see yourself. But as someone that has heard dozens upon dozens upon dozens of slam metal and tech death and technical deathcore, I think this is just mundane. And I respect what they are able to do. I respect their approach. I respect the fact that they are allowing the scene to grow in popularity in many ways. But for them to be standing sort of at the top of the corpse pile with some of these other bands, as opposed to bands that are really trying to take the style in a new direction, it really goes to show that whatever the zeitgeist is, whatever the top of the top, the cream of the crop, sort of rises above all of the rest and gets to the surface to where people can see them poking their heads above water and looking around. You're not going to see a lot of what's hiding under the surface. If you want to go under the iceberg analogy, you're not going to see that. You're not going to see a lot of these bands. And I just sort of want to go back to a time where it's not just what you are getting from bands like Acrania and bands like Vulvodynia. I don't want to be that sort of dude that's like, slam metal's dead, technical deathcore is dead, brutal deathcore is dead. There are so many bands that are great and so many bands doing a lot of stuff, but there's just a major deficit in some of these more brutal bands that I just miss that sort of old school tin can like snare sound to them, just really low vocals, not having to sound pristine and mechanical and electronic. And while Vulvodynia definitely has the gusto and the flair and the spice and the sparkles flying in all directions, I think that they are missing some of the guts that the past scene had. I think it's sort of counterproductive to say something like this and might seem a little bit contradicting, but I think that the heavier you get and the more brutal you get, I think the more often you miss the mark of the entire reason for the genres existing in the first place and what gave them so much appeal and really touched a lot of people musically. They have a musically tight sound and they are very tightly made, but they are missing the hallmarks that really gives it that sort of punch, that gives it that sort of organic, natural, fluid motion that so many bands that came before them did. So for me, I think Vulvodynia is very overrated in the grand scheme of things, and that's not to say I will not cover them or talk about them. I'm always going to give a band or an artist the benefit of the doubt, but bands like Vulvodynia and bands like Acrania, I think, are getting to the top with something that is very damaging to the scene, and something that as a whole, I'm not coming from a purist point of view or a purist perspective. I am not an elitist. I never have been an elitist. I have talked against elitist many times before, but I think there does come a point where you start to see the scene be taken in a direction that is not going to be very positive and create sort of a toxic atmosphere for it going in the future, and sort of sets the groundwork and sets the framework and the blueprints of something that in the long term is not going to benefit it that much. But I want to know what you guys think about this topic. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below what your thoughts are of Vulvodynia and Acrania and bands like this, and what your thoughts of the current slam and brutal deathcore scenes as a whole, where the scene is going. I would love to hear it and discuss it with you guys. If you have conflicting opinions, that's perfectly fine. I can't wait to hear them. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morse, the review guy, and I'm signing off saying fair.